Tonye, thank you so much for coming around on the news.
Cool.
So, is it true that the move to oust Governor Fubara from office is actually driven by narrow personal interests, or maybe it's actually looking at the interests of the citizens of Rivers State and seeing that accountability comes to play here?
Okay, I'll speak from a legal point of view. The Section 188 of the Nigerian Constitution prescribes two grounds on which a governor shall be impeached. Number one, gross misconduct is divided into two. Gross misconduct is an infraction of the Constitution, the provisions of the Constitution. Number two, another thing that constitutes gross misconduct is any conduct defined by the state. So, two elements. You need to show that the governor has violated the provisions of the Constitution. Alternatively, if the House of Assembly has provided a list of what constitutes gross misconduct, then you can proceed to impeach the governor. So the question now is, the 26 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, can they point to acts of gross misconduct by the governor? By the definition of Section 188 of the Constitution. I have looked at the 8 lists of allegations they have brought against the governor. None of them has met the constitutional requirement of Section 188. Now, let me explain. Section 188 says when the governor violates provisions of the Constitution, on one hand. Another angle to it is when the governor commits a gross misconduct as prescribed by the State House of Assembly in their standing orders. I have looked at their standing orders. None of these 8 allegations are there in the standing order. The standing orders of every legislature is made pursuant to Section 60 of the Constitution. So, instead of the governor to be impeached, it is the 26 members that should be impeached for this silliness. Because you need to follow the Constitution. Section 188 says this is when this conduct, when it reaches what is called gross misconduct, not just any misconduct, gross. That is when you commence impeachment. So it is actually the 26 members that should be impeached for wasting the time of the citizens.
Okay, so I'd like to ask, part of the accusations leveled against Siminalayi Fubara has to do with reckless and unconstitutional expenditure of public funds, according to the State Assembly anyway, unconstitutional misappropriation of state resources, and of course, expending these resources without legislative approval. So does it mean that the governor is not culpable of these allegations?
So when Section 188 says there is an offense, there are elements of an offense. You don't just, from your mind, for an offense to constitute gross misconduct, you have to define the offense. You must have written to the governor that you are violating Section 168, 62 about public expenditure. So there must be in writing, you notify the governor. Number one, then he committed the act. That is when you now say gross misconduct. There's a build-up.
Mr. Tonye, what I'm actually asking...
phantom.
So I understand you're talking about the constitutionality and the protocols when it comes to serving a governor of infractions, so to speak, executive infractions. What I'm asking is, allegations have been presented. The governor has been told, you've done this, you've expended funds without legislative approval. From what you've seen so far, is the governor culpable? Is he guilty of these allegations or not?
This is what I'm saying. If I were the governor, when they give me that nonsense piece of paper, impeachment notice, I would respond to them. Allegation number 1, tell me the date that you first notified me that I am violating allegation number 1. Number 2, tell me the date that you notified me. Because there's a threshold. You don't just wake up and say, governor has committed this. There should be a build-up. If you read section 188, before I came on this program, I'm doing an article on this. I'm a legislative lawyer. My master's, my PhD is in legislative law from the University of London. So there's what constitutes an infraction, gross misconduct is number 1, on so date, the governor was notified that you cannot spend money without assembly approval. There's a letter. Then he went ahead to spend. That is when the offense is complete. In law, we call it inchoate offense. An offense is not complete if there's an attempt. The act must be committed. Then you hold him guilty. If he's in the process, he has not completed the commission of the offense, you cannot hold the governor guilty. In fact, there's only one impeachable offense that the governor committed, which they did not even list.
Which is?
I want to play the devil's advocate for them. Out of the 8, there's an impeachable offense Governor Fubara has committed, and they did not even list that.
Please tell us.
So,
what is the offense? What is the offense?
The state of emergency. That is September. When they returned in September from the state of emergency, the State's House of Assembly asked Governor Fubara to present a supplementary budget and also to present what they call the midterm expenditure framework. This is a requirement. Every midterm, when there's a budget, midway, you're supposed to tell them how far you've spent from that money. Now, the impeachable offense is when they notified Governor Fubara to present a supplementary budget. If Governor Fubara had a lawyer, by then he didn't have Attorney-General anymore when he returned. Governor Fubara is supposed to have reported them to EFCC because they were asking him to commit a constitutional infraction. The sole administrator had spent the budget, presented a budget to National Assembly, which is the legitimate budget of the state. And you are now asking Governor Fubara to commit a criminal offense by bringing another budget. So that was an impeachable offense against the state assembly. Governor Fubara was not smart enough. He would have reported them to National Assembly, EFCC, for telling him to spend state money when there was already a budget running. Section 162, he should have raised that alarm, and they would have been the ones impeached and recalled.
All right, Tonye Jaja, because of time, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. We appreciate that.